One day, he had some troubles with a neighbor, called his brother up because the neighbor had pulled a gun on him. His brother, who was doing great in the Navy, came up and they got into an argument, and both brothers died defending themselves. And when we found the bodies, they were arm in arm, hugging each other, shot in the head. That mother got to me and the detective, and after we won the case, put the guy away, she was so helpful. 2 weeks later, she died of a heart attack. I think she died of a broken heart.
This is RVA Trial Lawyers, Virginia's trial lawyer podcast, hosted by Sharif Gray and Niall Abuzaki.
We are back. Niall Abuzaki, Sharif Gray, and Leonard Berry. Before we start today, I'm still prosecuting. Sharif just came back from Wyoming, where he did the Jerry Spence 4-week program. And today we have the pleasure of interviewing Mr. Berry. Please introduce yourself.
My name is Leonard Berry. I'm a citizen of the City of Richmond. I was raised by an Air Force colonel who was a World War II veteran, Korea, Vietnam. He retired. We were in Virginia at the time. I went to the University of Virginia. Then I went to T.C. Williams School of Law, and I graduated from there as a second lieutenant in 1974. And I went into the Air Force for 4 years, and then I came to Richmond, and I have been here since 1978.
Leonard, when you graduated in 1974, what were you doing for the Air Force?
Judge advocate. That's a lawyer for the Air Force. People don't understand. In the Air Force, the Army, the Navy, the Marines, we all have lawyers. We all have duties assigned, just like regular prosecutors and defense counsels.
Well, he was one of the good guys. I'm pretty sure he was defending soldiers. Is that right?
First 2 years, I was a trial counsel. Second 2 years, I was a defense counsel.
He ended on the right note.
My understanding of the good guys are the guys that wake up every day and do what's right. And clearly, Leonard's been doing it longer than both of us combined. So let's talk about doing what's right and prosecuting.
Well, I will tell you, I was having a difficult time coming out of the Air Force and not being from anywhere. And a good friend of mine who was in the Richmond Commonwealth Attorney's Office helped me get in there. The boss at that time was Aubrey Davis. He was an Air Force veteran also. So they got me in, and I had no plans to do anything. I just wanted to get a job. And 47 years later, I'm still doing it. But it's a good job, and I enjoyed my time. I worked in Chesterfield some. I worked in Henrico some, in the multi-jurisdictional grand jury. But for the most part, it was always in the City of Richmond.
City of Richmond, you started prosecuting 1978?
78.
And so you were a prosecutor in the City of Richmond when the City of Richmond was the murder capital of this country, right?
Per capita.
Per capita.
They killed more in D.C., but we did our fair share per capita.
Well, 1994, per capita.
Yeah, we had 160.
160 murders, more than any other city in the country per capita.
That's correct.
That was on your watch.
On my watch.
Let's talk about that. I'm sure you've done plenty of murder trials.
Well, in the 80s and 90s, it was not unusual for us to do 100 in a year. So I think by the time I finally gave it up, I was well over 700 murder cases, and murder and manslaughter. That's kind of what you do. But again, things are changed. They now have these lengthy trials. And I can tell you in the 70s and 80s, it was a little different. And they did things all at one time. They did sentencing and guilt or innocence at the same time. You could get through a murder jury in a day and a half, and be done totally with it. Very, very limited forensics, all witness heavy. You couldn't do a case without witnesses, obviously. Your medical examiner, maybe a fingerprint guy and a gun guy, and that was it. We didn't have DNA back then. You start at 8, pick a jury, do your thing. Back then, they did the sentencing and the guilt or innocence at the same time. You could be done by 7 or 8 in the evening.
1994, at the time, you've been prosecuting for about 16 years for the City of Richmond. What led to the decline of murders? And in your opinion, does the war on drugs, did that have a role?
Back in the 80s, early 90s, it was all drugs. Drugs. Everybody, every killing, both sides had guns in their hands at the time of the death. I mean, we're not talking about a sophisticated 14-week trials here. This is pretty basic stuff, but it's violent. And until we got got the handle on the drugs, our murder rate was horrendous. And then slowly but surely, it slowed down a little bit. Now, we still had bad violence at times, but the primary problem was crack cocaine. And I'll tell you something else, and I want to make this real clear. The police department also got better. In the beginning, they didn't have the resources. They didn't understand forensics. It was just one guy show up and he's your case detective. When I left last year, we're to the point where we have 24 detectives. They come out in teams. We have forensic people. But in the 80s, that's what you're asking me about, 70s, 80s, and even into the 90s, I'd be standing there with one detective, and that was it. And then I had another 2 prosecutors that were very good. Warren Von Schuck was probably one of the best. And same thing. So if you put the money and time into the training and the development of your detectives, it makes a big difference. And if you start winning cases and more people go to the penitentiary, it also makes a big difference. We weren't winning all our cases back in the 80s, I can tell you that.
You've had plenty of cases, and I know that many stand out, but if there is one defining case.
They're all sad because you have to spend a lot of time with the family. Whether you're a schmuck or an innocent victim, you all got moms and dads, or moms most of the time. The pain is the same for them as it is whether it's a good victim or a bad victim. The families, when you think about why I'm finally giving it up, the family pain, you start to absorb too much after 4 or 5 decades. And so you just realize, this is really hard.
What kept you going?
Well, I live here. It's the only home I've ever had. In the Air Force, the military, you move around. So this happened to be my home. I raised my children here. I have an input in the community. I like what I do. I think it's a noble profession. That may sound corny to some people, but not to me. My father, I said, why'd you stay in the Air Force? He said, well, it's an honorable profession.
Tell me a case that stands out in your mind.
A lot of people think about some of these horrendous cases we've had, and they all are very, very important. But this is a case that nobody knows about except for maybe the detective. I had this really nice lady from New Orleans. She had 4 kids. And she brought her family out of the muck of Katrina to Richmond to try to get them a new start, a new life. She was raising them by herself. And one of the sons went in the Navy and the daughter got married. And it was like a success story for this family. Well, one of her sons stayed here in Richmond and he did rap music. And one day he had some troubles with a neighbor. He called his brother up because the neighbor had pulled a gun on him. His brother, who was doing great in the Navy, came up and they got into an argument, and both brothers died defending themselves. And when we found the bodies, they were arm in arm, hugging each other, shot in the head. That mother got to me and the detective, and after we won the case, put the guy away, she was so helpful. 2 weeks later, she died of a heart attack. I think she died of a broken heart. And that has stayed with me through all the horrible things that I've seen and done. That one bothered me, the 2 brothers holding each other in their death.
With time, that layer of resistance and not being affected by these tragic cases tends to wear off.
Right now, I can feel my blood pumping a little bit because that thing has still had. Everybody talks about the Harvey case. Well, there was a nice family who also got wiped out, and they got duct taped to death. The man duct taped them literally until they couldn't breathe. Duct taped their entire head, entire face. The father had to watch the mother go. The mother had to watch the daughter go, and suffocating from duct taping. The Harveys was horrendous. But 3 days later, we were dealing with same killer. At a point, it's just like being in the service. After a while, if you see a lot of bad stuff happen to your friends, it gets to you. Well, I handle this pretty well, but you ask me what some things bother me. Yeah, I got a few that bother me. I try to forget them, to be the truth. 2 guys shooting each other over drugs, I don't remember those.
It's that absorption and that pain that weighs heavy. the longer you prosecute. And I'm not even halfway through my career. I'm a drop in your bucket, learned. But
but everyone takes a little piece out of it.
It does. Everyone takes a little piece, and that layer of resistance starts to fade away with time, and then it starts to get to you and get to you and get to you. It's something that I can appreciate as well. I will tell you, I once walked into a courtroom in the city of Richmond, and you were putting on a murder trial. And I often say a good cross-examination is a closing argument, because it doesn't matter what the witness says. It's what comes out of your mouth, right?
That's correct.
And what I think a great direct is also an opening statement, because you're telling the story and you're just having a conversation. You're just painting a picture.
I don't disagree with you. People always think about the big closing argument. People are exhausted. The jury's exhausted. You're exhausted. But when the jury's fresh and you tell them what's coming, and then because you go first, it comes just like you said it was going to come, that sticks in their minds.
It's a huge advantage. Huge advantage. I mean, we've done a few of these podcasts now. Every single person, and Learned, I bet if we ask you this question, we already know what your answer is. What are the most important parts of trial? They're all important, but what's really the most important part of trial? Voir dire and opening statement.
Opening statement for me, and it's always been, because what you're doing is you're putting the lens on. But what's powerful about an opening statement is that you promise one thing that they're going to see, and then they see it, which builds credibility for their attorney. And now that's where it takes me to Learned's direct examination. Everyone talks about your direct examination. It's a conversation.
Right.
And I saw it, and it's just so fluid. I'm like, where's the question? You lose.
You're talking to them.
Exactly. You lose sight of the question.
Right.
How did you master that?
Well, I wasn't the best student, but I did learn how to talk in law school. And one thing the Air Force did for me in JAG school was make me sit on juries. Their training for their lawyers was to make you sit on juries, right? Oh my God, you learn so much. And if you see some guy standing at a podium with a piece of paper reading questions, it ain't getting in, right? But if you have a guy standing next to you in the jury box, just kind of talking to the witness like you're part of the jury, I mean, and you can kind of read if they're paying attention or not. And you just try to incorporate them in the conversation. That's all. I'm not the best thinking lawyer, but I do understand common sense, and I do realize that these people are here for the day. They got other things on their mind, but if you can get them with you, I never get more than about 2 or 3 feet from the jury, no matter what I'm doing, except when I'm arguing, then you got to step back a little bit.
You're building a tribe. You're including the jury in this experience, in this case. It's not the jury, it's us. It's we. What are we going to do to get this right?
You want to take away everything else it's just a triangle. It's the witness, you, and the jury. Sometimes I stand behind the jury and ask questions when I get away with it. And so I know they're hearing what's coming at them, and I can also kind of read what they're doing. They always talk on these talk shows about all this brilliant strategy. Shit, you don't need strategies. You need common sense.
We tend to overthink lawyering. And I often say...
Oh, you're right there.
Yeah, without a doubt. Lawyers want to come across as lawyers. And if you come across as a lawyer, you failed. When do we sit at the edge of our seat, pick up a pen, and start taking notes? It's when we have a teacher in front of us. And I often say, if you want to make your case, you need to come across as a teacher, not as a lawyer.
Well, you're a guide. At the end of the day, rightfully so, the jury believes that the lawyers know more about the case, and so they're looking for who they can trust. And if they can trust you, and if you can give them the information that they need in a way that they can easily understand it and that it makes sense, and chances are you're off to the races.
Yeah, and you have to do it with it. Like, you can't have a 3-day voir dire. You have to pick and choose of maybe 15, 16 questions and then sit down.
That's true, especially in Virginia. In fact, I had a case in the city of Richmond last fall, and the judge at one point said, "This is why I don't like open-ended voir dire." And I looked at the judge and said, "Don't worry, Judge. I only have 3 more days of this." The jury laughed. The judge did not laugh. But I think the judge was a fan of me by the end of the trial. But yeah, in Virginia, we don't get a lot of voir dire. So
in North Carolina, when you are representing someone by appointment, they pay you by the hour. and voir dires go on for days. And in Virginia, you get paid by the charge. And they don't go on for days. They use common sense. So, I mean, there's a lot of human stuff going on here. And the Richmond juries are tough. That's a tough crew, man. They're from all parts of the world. We run the whole gamut on a Richmond jury.
It's interesting, and I hear people, especially because I do a lot of personal injury work, I hear people talk all the time say, well, it's in Henrico, it's in Hanover, it's in Richmond, you're going to get a different jury. And I think there's some truth to it, but to what you're saying, Learned, Richmond's got everybody. And hell, I mean, we're 2 hours south of D.C., there's people from California. I mean, there's everybody is in Richmond, right? You don't know what you're going to get.
Henrico used to be pretty pro-Commonwealth, right?
Yes.
But not anymore. It's about 50-50 now. Now, Chesterfield's a little tougher for the defense out there.
But you never know, right? People are
right.
people. We all watch different stuff on TV, see different stuff on the internet. You never know. And I do think it also comes back to who the lawyer is and how the lawyer frames the case. There's a story I remember hearing about, you Learned, this is before I even met you. The UVA has got the prosecution clinic. My roommate at the time was in the prosecution clinic. He would make the trip to Richmond, I guess. He would make the drive to Richmond maybe once or twice a week. And I remember him coming back and saying, yeah, there's this guy's former Air Force JAG, and there was a trial, and the defendant took the stand, and it was such nonsense that the prosecutor, he just got up and left. He just walked out of the courtroom, and then I came to find out that was Learned Barry.
You can't do that too often.
No, you can't.
You got to know the right time.
Well, not only that, but think about, to be able to pull that off, think about the credibility that you've had to earn, or you did earn with the court and with that jury.
Learned, you've spent some great time in court. And when a defense counsel is doing an excellent job on cross, what do you do to break that flow?
See, first off, if Cooley gets up there and he gets rolling, you don't interrupt him. You got to let him do his thing. And then actually you can even, as he walks back to the table, go, that was a good job. Good job. And then you try to say something to your witness and rebuttal to kind of fix that problem. But if they're really being obnoxious, you can chop them up with objections. But good lawyers don't do that. Does that make sense? You just kind of play it by ear. Mr. Cooley, when you go up against him, it's not fair. Because he looks like your grandfather. And he's nice and he's polite and he's got that gray hair. I think he's had gray hair since he was 12. He doesn't call people liars. He says, oh, I think he's fibbing a little bit, don't you, folks? He's really good. And there's nothing you can do about that except resolve the case ahead of time.
So we can go back and forth with all these stories. I'd like to learn a little bit more about what it was that kept you prosecuting. Clearly, you loved the job. Clearly, you believed that it was an important job. What was it about being a prosecutor that made it for you?
If you really do your job as a prosecutor, you can help people as well as hurt people. You hurt bad people and you help people that make mistakes. Whenever I would babysit in traffic court, everybody wanted to get a plea that day because I knew that traffic court offenders weren't going to make a difference in the criminal wave in the city. If you want to go driving school, go driving school. If you do this, do that, But not everybody needs to get hammered. And I think that's as important as these murder cases that I've done. I've also done murder cases where I've resolved things for manslaughter. Voluntary manslaughter is a go-to crime when both people have guns. You just have to do the right thing.
Prosecution is one of the best jobs there is for a lawyer because you can be a force for good.
Or at least you could help see the other side a little bit. Sometimes people get bad lawyers and you just kind of go, oh, Jesus, what is he doing? And then you try to help him out. I don't mess around with Cooley. I mean, we've tried cases against each other, but if I got anything, we can usually sit down and resolve stuff.
Right.
Learned that there's something that I'm starting to appreciate more and more the longer I've been doing this is that when you're out victimizing people, you are a victim yourself of something. And we see it now with this uptake of violent crime and seeing a lot of young defendants, like 16, 17, 18-year-olds, mom in jail, no father or mother figure in their life. And they're finding their way or trying to figure out their way through life. And I often say as a prosecutor, you have to put the defendant in a better position in the way out of the system than when they first entered the system. Because if you don't, and they get back out and they victimize someone else, then you failed your community that you represent because you're taking part of that victimization of that second victim.
That's right. That's
you
exactly
take part
correct.
of the victimization. You said one thing earlier, and then Sharif asked you, well, why do you continue to do this? Well, you're like, this is home. I'll tell you, for me, I'm living in Rico County, and Rico County resident, it's different when I'm prosecuting for the county that I live in, that my family lives in, that my niece and nephews live in. So there's something about making sure that you are holding them accountable and also helping them to make sure that they're not victimizing other victims in the community by making them better citizens on their way out.
Right. There's some bad people out there, and they hurt good people. And I don't have any problem getting pumped up to put them away forever. But there are some young guys that you think, oh, Jesus, if I would have been raised like him, I'd probably be a little shit that he is. So rather than get 50 years, they get 18 or 19. We have one judge, Judge Cardwell, really good judge.
Yes.
Good prosecutor, good defense counsel. If a kid's really young, she's not going to light him up. But if a guy's 25, 30, she'll light him up in a heartbeat. What you said, though, is so true. Plus, see, a lot of people don't realize the environment that we have in parts of the city. I mean, these kids are feral kids, man. They kill people and they don't even think twice about it. They're scary. So you have to kind of pick and choose which guys you're going to help and which guys you aren't. I'm not going to say help. I just mean you don't have to crush everybody.
How is it now? You've seen it in its real bad days. How is Richmond doing now?
Oh, it's much better now. At a point when Venuti was running the murder team and I had a bunch of good prosecutors, we had it down to 30. 1 year, the only year that I can remember, we weren't number one in the state. Norfolk beat us. But the rest of the time, we've always been number one. So we had it down to 30. So if you employ the resources and give us I had experienced prosecutors. I mean, they were all like 10-year guys like you. They weren't like 2 or 3 year guys. You can really put a dent on it. But then, the police chief, he lost his job, and next guy got into a fight with the Commonwealth's attorney, and it just varies. But if you don't give the police resources, this is my favorite topic. In my world, when a body hits the ground, the police show up and the Commonwealth attorney gets assigned. And that is a team from beginning to end. They don't hand us files. We know just what they know. We work together. We use the cell phones. We use I don't know how they do it in some jurisdictions, but in Richmond, cops and the Commonwealth are together from the very beginning. Otherwise, you don't win convictions. If you take away anything from this, police are really important. People have no clue how important the police are.
I agree wholeheartedly with you on that. So after 47 years, majority prosecuting, you look back at your career. What do you take away from it?
We've gotten better. We don't make as many mistakes as we used to mistake.
As prosecutors.
As prosecutors. I mean, I've convicted innocent people twice that I'm aware of. You can do this stuff before forensics. Back in the 80s, it was all witnesses. Not since then. Now we have forensics. We don't make many mistakes these days.
You were doing your job. At the time, you believed that they were guilty without a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Without a doubt.
And
so did everybody else at the time.
Exactly. So you put the case on, and everyone else thought the same way. Hindsight is 20/20.
DNA is a huge factor these days. Back then, I didn't have DNA. DNA now makes the difference in a lot of things.
How has that changed your practice after you received the first, let's say, petition or notification that, hey, DNA has exonerated this individual? Tell me what went through your mind.
Okay, but again, we're talking a span of...
Without a doubt.
Right, 40 years.
Without a doubt.
We are so much better now than we were in the 70s and the 80s, all right? Different world, different time, different place. This is a whole different world. Now we've almost gone to overkill. Whereas back then, like I said, you had firearms, fingerprints, and autopsies. That was it. DNA opened up a whole new world to us, and it really makes a big difference.
And I often say that prosecutors are simply a mouthpiece, and they're storytellers, and the story is written before it comes to them, and they present the story. And that's what you did in those two cases.
Well, I know. And again, I'm just telling you that there's room for improvement.
Of course.
There's still room for improvement.
And we can still work on it.
That's right. You need more trained detectives and you need more experienced prosecutors. And you can't have turnover in an office. You can't have it.
So I know turnover is very, very common in a Commonwealth Attorney's office. What are your thoughts as to why that's the case?
Because they don't pay them enough money. I know some guys that get out of law school, they go to the Commonwealth Attorney office, they make $65,000 a year. If they go to McGuire Woods, they make $200,000 a year. Come on, that's not.
Yeah, and then you add the $150,000 are in debt for law school, and it's sad. So I did go to a law school where I had plenty of friends who wanted to be prosecutors, wanted to be trial lawyers. Then they got the high-paying job, the big law job. And then 5, 6, 7 years in, they're like, hey, Sharif, I don't know if I really like this. I'm making a lot of money. I don't know if I really want to be a partner. I don't even know if I'm going to become a partner. I wanted to be a trial lawyer. What do I do? You ready to go be a public defender? You ready to go be a prosecutor?
You know, and I often say there aren't a lot of Sharif Grays in this world. And let me tell you why. I'm not sure our listeners know this, but Sharif always wanted to be a trial attorney. And he did get the $200,000 job. And he did get the $80,000 signing bonus. And as we know, if you ever take
that's not even a salary for the Commonwealth Attorney's office.
And you often hear, if you've taken an econ class, that human beings respond to incentives.
Yeah.
But Sharif, not everyone's incentives are like yours. Others, it's money. Yours was not. And Sharif...
No, he went in the Army, for God's sake. Nobody goes in the Army.
And I'll tell you, the reason why I have the pleasure now of sitting to his right is because he left that $200,000 paying job and that $80,000 signing bonus. He's like, you know what? I'm a trial attorney. I want to prosecute. And I was fortunate enough to cross paths with Sharif, and he was like, this is why I went to law school, to be a trial attorney. And I'm sure Sharif did not make much more than $70,000, $80,000. He left a couple of $100,000 on the table.
Yep, he did.
But that's not how everyone is. And you're exactly right, Learned.
That's absolutely correct.
It's the money. It's the money. And going back to that layer of resistance that you talk about that kind of fades with time, and then these cases start to weigh heavy on you. Because when you first get out and start prosecuting, you're answering a call.
You have
that passion. You have that energy. And then it starts to weigh and weigh and weigh. Guess what? You're moving a lot slower. It's weighing a lot heavier. And it gets to a point and you ask yourself, till when? Till when?
And the volume makes a difference.
Yes.
Well, and I imagine also sometimes the lack of support or even perceived lack of support, it's got to weigh on the prosecutor. I'm biased. I think a prosecutor is one of the purest forms of law. You get to wake up every morning and you get to think, I'm going to do the right thing today. I'm going to work towards getting justice. You're not worried about the billable hour. You're not worried about settling a case. You get to worry about doing right for your community. It's such an incredible job. For the young lawyers who do come to me and ask for advice, I tell them to go join a prosecutor's office.
For 4 or 5 years, at least.
And not 10, huh?
Oh, you might be a lifer.
Yeah. Well, now is a lifer. But it's also fun. I mean, yes, is it purposeful work? Absolutely. Can you be a force for good if you are doing the right thing? You've got the right training, you've got the right resources. Absolutely. But let's be honest, being in front of a jury is a blast. In fact, there is no better adrenaline rush that I've come across than a jury trial. It's exciting.
When was the last time you got 12 people to agree on anything? See,
well, I got 7 people to agree the other week, but now I got 12 people to agree on a murder trial. What, a week ago?
That's right.
Actually, we've had some good results here lately, which has been fun.
But it is a challenge.
It's a huge challenge. It takes a lot of work to be a really good trial lawyer. It takes a significant amount of work. You have to be intentional about everything, but it's also incredibly exciting.
You got to be a great human. If you want to be a great trial attorney, you got to be a great human first and be able to connect with other humans.
But that's also on top of the foundational skills too. And it's a constant learning experience. There's always more to learn. There's always room to improve. But Learned, if you had a young lawyer come to you and say, hey, I want to be a trial lawyer, what are you telling them to do?
How much debt do you have?
Sure. But the money always works itself out.
You're different. I'm telling you, buddy, you're different. You're different.
I will vouch for that. Well, Learned, we appreciate you taking the time and sharing a glimpse of your life and a glimpse being a minister of justice and what you've done for not only the city of Richmond, but the Commonwealth of Virginia. It's a pleasure to be with you today, and we're looking forward to hearing more stories and hopefully, seeing more people that continue this lifer career that you've built.
Thank you for listening to this episode of RVA Trial Lawyers, Virginia's trial lawyer podcast. For more episodes, check out rvatriallawyers.com.